Hello and welcome to SFF Book Recs. I'm Marie and this is my July TBR. So I learned something from my last month's TBR, which was for the Olympics readathon. I chose 16 books to read and wasn't quite able to stick to the TBR. I think I completed about 8 of the prompts. So this month I'm setting myself only 10 book TBR, and let's get started. I have 3 physical books that I want to read this month, and the first one is The Library of the Dead by Huchu. This is an urban fantasy set to Edinburgh, with a main character who can speak to dead people. So she can see them, she can talk to them, and probably there's going to be some kind of a mystery plot, because that's the staple of urban fantasy. And this book was sent kindly to me by the One with Scars, who is a moderator of fantasy subreddit. This was I participated in a contest when I completed last year's bingo challenge and won this book. Yay! Thank you so much, One with Scars. She also sent me in the same parcel some beautiful pins, 2 of them, a card, and some lovely cups, or this kind of bowls. So really looking forward to reading this one. This will be one of the first books I read. Okay, and another physical book is Afterland by Beukes. This is a dystopian book set after a pandemic that kills off most of the men. So the government is female controlled, and part of their attempts to make sure that humanity survives, they want to take all young boys and men, like teenaged boys and men, and put them into facilities for breeding purposes. So one mother is not on board of this, and she runs away with her son, and they flee across America and try to find a sanctuary. So basically kind of Handmaid's Tale, except women are the ones in control, and yeah. Last year I read Beukes' Zoo City, which was an urban fantasy book with horror elements set to Johannesburg in South Africa, and that was a really excellent book. So I'm really looking forward to reading a new book from Beukes. Okay, but moving on. This book is called The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri, and it's a very recent release. It came out in June, and this book was inspired by Indian history and mythology, and the main character is a princess who has been imprisoned by her brother for not agreeing to participate in a very brutal ritual where she was supposed to burn herself. And basically the only person she's allowed to see is her maidservant, who is secretly a priestess. And she and her fellow priestesses used to live in this now abandoned temple. So we will be getting some reveals about her past and this mystical order. And this book has there will be a queer relationship between these 2 women. Sounds really wonderful, and and I've heard very good reviews about this book, so I'm really excited to read it. Well, 2 of them I pre-ordered last month, but wasn't able to get at them. The first one is Questland by Carrie Vaugh, and this is set to real world. It's kind of, I guess you could say, sci-fi, I guess, because there's this kind of island with virtual reality, kind of like the West world, except that this is way more geeky and cool. It's this kind of fantasy world where you get to play a fantasy character and have magical powers, to be able to do magical things while you're in the island. And the owner of the island hires Addie Cox, who is a professor of literature, so she knows stuff about fantasy, to go with him and a team of soldiers to liberate the island, which has been taken over by its head designer, who happens to be Addie's ex. So this sounds like a really intriguing, and I've heard that this is full of Easter eggs for geeks, so there are a lot of cultural references. So that makes me really excited to read this one. Okay, and the second one is Casting Conflict by Michelle Sagara, and this is, I think, book 15 of Elantra Chronicles, which is an urban fantasy series set to a fantasy world. So it's not our world, but a second world fantasy. And there's this big fantasy city where Kaelin is a cop. And this book deals with dragons and Barani and their, or particular dragon and Barani's strained relationships, because they all want the same thing. And I won't be going deeper into this, like the plot of this book, because if you want to start the series, you obviously should start with book 1. But basically, the Barani, they are kind of like elves and vampires, a mix of those, and they are also immortal creatures, and they and the dragons have had at least one major war before, and their relationships are a bit strained. So this will be a really interesting entry, and probably will be one of the first series I'll be reading, or one of the first books I'll be reading. Yeah, that was Casting Conflict. Then one of the books that I want to get to is Master of Djinn by Djeli Clark. This is set to his Cairo, or this is set to his fantastical Cairo setting. It's kind of like alternative history, I guess. It's set to early 900s Cairo, which has kind of steampunk technology and Djinn. So yeah, Fatma, a detective who we have met in 2 previous stories, will be the main character in this one, and I'm really excited because I've absolutely loved Djeli Clark's novels, or The Haunting of Tramcar 015, and the short story where we meet Fatma, which is free on Tor.com website. I'll be linking it down below, so if you want to read it, I highly recommend it, because it's a delightful short story, and will show you how great writer Djeli Clark is. Okay, that was the third older book that I really want to read this month. Then the fourth one is Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichec. I think that's how you say the name. This one features or draws from Norse mythology. The main character is Angrboda, the wife of Loki, and this will show how they got together, and they got together 3 pretty kind of monstrous children. They got Hel, well, the goddess of hell, the like the underworld where the dead people who don't go to Valhalla, the like the Einherji or the Einherjar, the heroes who die in battle, they get to go to Valhalla, and everyone else goes to Hell's land. And then there was Jormungandr, which is the world snake, and Fenris the wolf, who will cause major havoc during Ragnarok, at the end of the world. But anyway, this book is the romance of Angrboda and Loki, and there will also be some queer elements. So I think that Angrboda will also meet someone else than Loki. But that book, I love mythology. I love Norse mythology especially. So this is like, I hope that this will be an awesome read. I will probably love it or enjoy it, even if it's not like perfect book, but I really hope it will be. It could be a 5-star read. Just like Circe by Madeline Miller was for me. Okay, but those were the 4 books from previous months that I really want to get to this month. Then there will be 1 sequel. I read last month Red Rising by Pierce Brown, and now I want to read book 2 called The Golden Sun. This is dystopian sci-fi set to future where Mars has been colonized, and the society has been divided into four classes, and golds are the highest and reds are the lowest, and they are the manual laborers. And the main character, Darrow's family, they have been miners for generations, and they live very dangerous and hardworking lives, and don't live to see old age. And Darrow finds out that her people have been lied to, and goes through a lot of things in the book 1, and this is the continuation. If you want to hear more about like what I thought of the first book, The Red Rising, then watch my monthly wrap up for June. That video will be coming out on this Sunday. So I will be talking more in detail about that book and what I thought about it. But obviously I liked it because I want to read the sequel. I would say that it was probably a 4-star, maybe even 4.5-star read for me. It has a magical school, or military school in this case, that trope, and I just love that trope. And it also has the Hunger Game trope. So there's this kind of contest, which is deadly and brutal, and I just eat that up with a spoon. So 2 of my favorite tropes in one book, and great writing, excellent characters. What's not to love? So yes, definitely continuing in the series. Then last month I also read a completely new urban fantasy series called Cargillion series by Dinah Rowland. This is about a cop in Louisiana who is also a demon summoner. 8 books are out so far, and I binged through all of them last month. Book 1 was the last one I read in May, but I read all the 7 books during June. I just couldn't stop. I was glued. I was hooked and had to find out what happens. And now we're waiting for the last book in that series So, but Diana Rowland has written another urban fantasy series called White Trash Zombie. And I love the series iZombie on CV. That was a really, really fun and awesome series. So I hope that these books will be as good as the TV series and as great as the Cargillion series was. So definitely reading at least the first book, and yeah, I'm probably gonna binge read all the books in this series, and it sounds really intriguing. Also, the books deal with themes of social class, and and the main character was a bit of a mess before dying and becoming a zombie. So there was like substance addiction. I think she was a drug user, and lived a messy life. So the books will be exploring like overcoming addiction and changing your life around. So those are really maybe heavy themes, but I know that Diana Rowland can do justice to them. And yeah, then the last book I will be reading this month comes out in July, and that is Nalini Singh's The Last Guard. This is book 15 in her paranormal romance series, and I'd say that this series is as much urban fantasy as it is paranormal romance, because there's a really robust like meta plot continuing, or big plot arc continuing from book to book. And there's a lot of political intrigue, many different factions who have their own agendas, and you can, even if you're not that into the romance part, you can read these books for the excellent world building and like the events related to that. And as always, we will probably see some of the older, like some of the characters from previous books who will do cameos. Like not everyone, but some of them will. The main character, or the male main character, is Kanto Merkant. So I hope we will see more of the Merkant family, possibly Silver Merkant, who had her own book a few books back. But we'll see. We'll see who all will feature again. But yeah, I'm gonna be reading this book the day it comes out, and you will hear my opinion at the end of the month. Okay, but those were the 10 books that I'm gonna be reading this month. What are you reading? Please let me know in the comments below. And if you're in a hurry to and won't be able to write a long comment, leave a smiley or a dot. Any comment is welcome. But thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.